Today's lesson is on Michel Foucault. He's another French philosopher. Yeah. That he's again a 20th century philosopher. He died in early 1980s, and he contributed a lot in power and knowledge analysis. Basically, Foucault's theories primarily address the relationship between power and knowledge. Okay, Foucault's basic concern is power. How power works in this world, how power works in these societies, how power works in among individuals, how power works in families, how power works in groups, and relation between power and knowledge. This is his primary contribution. Foucault's primary contribution is that. Foucault's theories primarily address the relationship between power and knowledge and how they are used as form of social control through societal institutions. Right? That how power has been used to control societal institutions and societal affairs. Particularly in Marxian sense, and before Michel Foucault, there was another French thinker. His name was Louis Althusser. They discussed about power in detail, that notion of power. The meaning of power before Foucault was quite repressive, particularly in Marxist approach. That they figured out that power is exerted from above to bottom. For example, the state, the government has power. The government exerts its power on people. Then how the government exerts its power? Through a complete range of institutions. For example, police, army, judiciary. These are institutions that have been used by governments to exert power on individuals and the groups. Okay, the army exerts its power, police exerts its power. They have some cohesive power. They have some physical power. Army has the power to, these days we are witnessing it, right? In Sri Lanka, that you guys are witnessing emergency law. That you cannot break particular rules and regulations in the country. If the army commands you to stop, then you will have to stop. Otherwise, army would shoot at you. Because law is there. That law comes from the state. This is called repressive power. The government has repressive power. Government has very brutal power. Government has very cohesive power. The state, government and state are two different entities. Government is not the state, state is not the government, but there are some common features. Governments could change time to time. But the state would not change on that frequent. Understand? That for example, state could be some maybe socialist state. In a socialist state, you will witness, you will come across several governments. State has ideology of socialism that time. Then you say this is a socialist state. State is something different from the government. Okay? State has its own characteristics. State has its own way of systems. For example, certain states have certain systems of governance. Certain states have certain systems of parliaments. For example, in the US you will find Senate and lower chamber. In the UK also you would find it. But here in Sri Lanka you won't find a Senate. You won't find a Senate here. Then the state, in its features, Sri Lankan state is quite different to the US state. Okay, the state system can be changed in a longer period, but governments change from, by and large, in every 5 years' time. In Sri Lankan system, maybe in every 6 years, maybe in every 4 years, in some countries. In every 4 years, you are supposed to elect a new government. In some countries, even in 3 years. Here, in every 4 years, you are supposed to elect a new government. But state would not change in that frequent. That we are witnessing here a democratic socialist state here. Okay, that state has a good deal of coercive power. They have their own army. They have their own police and all other repressive elements. Before Foucault, the theorists, the philosophers were basically focused on repressive power matter. How state repressed you, right? Before Foucault, actually, Louis Althusser came up with idea of ideology, how ideology plays a role in shaping our affairs. Okay, we will discuss about it. Power is also often seen as a possession, something which is held onto by which in power, which those who are powerless try to wrest from their control. The earlier notion is that power is often seen as a possession, somebody would possess power. For example, head of department of the or dean of the faculty of engineering, he holds power. That's the earlier notion. Okay, that he has power in his hands. The president, executive president, has powers in his hand. Okay, that was the earlier notion. But Foucault says power is not something in possession of somebody. We'll discuss about it. Okay, think like that. That for Foucault, yes, you have that element of repressive power. That's true. That dean of faculty of engineering can remove any student or any teacher or anybody from these premises because he has his own powers. The executive president can implement death penalty. He can hang people. Right. But Foucault says, yes, that element is there, but there is another notion of power. Okay? That power has been transformed in a new dimension in this world. Right? He says, Foucault says, power is quite subtle. Power is the normalizing power. Right? That we have been normalized. Right? That you would not think of, even if you find somebody's purse on this corridor, you will take it and you will pass it to the authorities. Right? That's the way you act. Then you will come across somebody's wallet, then you will pick it. That's normal you. You will pick it and you will pass it to your authorities. Maybe dean's office, maybe somebody. Right. Foucault says that is the normalizing power. How you have been normalized, that power is there. Right? You that those days and still now, repressive power is there, that you should not, that cohesive power is like that. There are laws, or that there are punishments. You will be punished if you steal. If you steal somebody's money, you will be punished. But in normalized thing, in a normalized world, you would not steal. You would not steal. You will give back what you come across. If something unattended, then you will pick it and give it back. Then you have been normalized not to steal. Not to steal. That you have been normalized to sit on your chair. You won't come and sit here. You won't stand up in your chair because you can do them, but you have been normalized. At the end of the day, Foucault says that normalizing power is exerted not only on us, but people on the top of the hierarchy as well. For example, the president of the country is supposed to act in a certain way, because normalizing power has been implemented on him as well. President of the country cannot act his own way. Bosses cannot act their own way, but they have power. But normalizing power, normalizing you through morals, is a way of controlling the societies. That particularly Foucault finds that in 16th, 17th centuries in Europe, people people were killed, people were punished in public spaces for their crimes and for their wrongdoings. In public space, that you are punished before the eyes of people. But punishment has been, Foucault has written a nice book, Discipline and Punish. Punishment has been transformed into hidden places, that you put people into prisons, and punishment that public, that punishment was quite public those days. It has been transformed into hidden places, and now the normalizing thing, that the power exerted on the way has been quite subtle. In the modern context, if you have to use your coercive power, your repressive power on something, means that you have failed. For example, if one country wants to invade another country, then power mechanism has been failed. That send in your aircraft, send in your soldiers, send in your war tanks to another country and invade it, is your failure. Exerting your coercive power is a failure of you. Instead of that, in the modern world, people control entities through more subtle way. For example, that if India wants to control countries in the periphery and its region, then India would involve in this matter. That those days it was just repressive power. Nowadays, if the US wants to meddle into affairs of countries in this region, they would do it in a subtle way. Okay, they would, that because if you are going to use your repressive power, then it will be a failure in the modern world, particularly. Right? According to Foucault, power is conceptualized as a chain or as a net. Power is a net or power is a chain. Power is not something linear thing. Power is a set of relations which are dispersed throughout society, than being located within particular institutions such as the state or the government. Power is not limited to a certain entity, a certain place, a certain man, a certain individual. Power is dispersed. Power is like a chain. Power is like a net. In an interview entitled Critical Theory, Intellectual Theory, Foucault states, I am not referring to power with a capital P, because he is concerned about using capital P, power. He says he do not use capital P for power, because power is not come from a certain individual or certain entity who is holding that thing. Right? Power is quite dispersed. Power is everywhere. Right? Hence he used simple P for power, dominating and imposing its rationality upon totality of social body. No, not he says, no, it is not imposed in totality of social body. That power in the modern sense, it's not that total thing. In fact, they are power relations. We have power relations, right? You guide me to do what should I do. I guide you to do what you do. This is power relation. Okay? Because nothing can be controlled single-handedly. Then power, they are multiple. They have different forms. They can be in play in family relations or within an institution or an administration. Right? Power is multiple, not something single, not something which is held by a single individual or single institution. Power is quite dispersed and a chain, something multiple, something plural. Foucault was influenced by Louis Althusser, as I said, one of his teachers. Althusser was focused on ideological state apparatuses, right? These are family, church, educational systems. These are ideological. Family teaches you how to behave, how to eat, how to drink, how to sit, how to respect your elders, how to respect your youngers. Then family teaches them. Church teaches you, temple teaches you, and the education system. This is called ideological state apparatus. Althusser says it's ISA. Then ideology governs you. Before Althusser, actually, it was quite, the notion of power was quite repressive, but Althusser started to change this notion. Then ideology also plays a significant role in shaping power structures, power relations. Family normalizes you. The temple normalizes you. The education system normalizes you, and you are now a normal being. Perhaps most of you would like to put a tattoo on your neck or your hand or your anything. Maybe you would like to do a tattoo. Why you get refrain from that? Why is that? I believe no one has tattooed here. Nobody's, but now, why do you refrain from it? Don't you like it? Perhaps, most probably this is because the society, the system, your parents, your family, your temple, your priests, your monks, your education system, they want to limit you, they want to restrain you, they want to normalize you. Right? This is power. That the same thing can be done by law and repressive power. If you have done a tattoo on your neck, then you can be caned, you can be put in jail. This is repressive power. But you don't do it right now. Why? This is because of normalizing power. Right? Because normally I used to wear t-shirts and denims and all, and use rubber slippers and all, and go everywhere. But here I come because this has been normalized here. Okay, this is because I have been subjected to a power structure. Nobody told me to wear in this way, but I have worn on the like this with these shirts and trousers and all wear, because I have been subjected to these power structures. I have been normalized. Then the system wants to create a normal being, normal individual. This is the power extracted or exerted on you, right? Right. According to Foucault, relations of power are perhaps among the best hidden things in the social body. It is hidden, as I told you. We do not know we have been repressed or we have been subjected to power structures. We don't know. We believe these things are normal, but this is power. This is power. Rather than simply locating power in a centralized impersonal institution like the government, the state, Foucault, rather than simply locating power in a centralized impersonal institution such as the army or the police, as earlier Marxist theorists had done, he is interested in local forms of power and the way that they are negotiated with by individuals and other agencies. Right? Where there is power, there is resistance. Foucault says, where there is power, there is resistance. In order for there to be relation where power is exercised, there has to be someone who resists. That if the power relations would only comes into existence, these relations only come into existence if you resist them. Maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously. Okay? For example, like that in the slave system, slaves obeyed what their masters wanted to do, but at the same time, they resisted in different forms. For example, reggae music has been created through resistance of slaves in Jamaica and West Indies and all. Right? Power creates when resistance is there. But when we are analyzing power, I think Lord Buddha is a wonderful case to study. He says, do something like Maitri or Karuna or something like that. Then, if you have done something to you, if the system go against you, then you should not react to them. That's the way Buddha teaches. Then power would not exert. If somebody represses you, if somebody exerts power against you, then you would not react. If somebody would scold you, if somebody would blame you, would insult you, then you would not react. At the very moment you start to react, then power relation starts. what Lord Buddha said, he broke he was able to break the power relation, the power structure. He didn't respond. Some people insulted him, he didn't respond. He asked his disciples to, if somebody attacks you, then don't respond. The point where you respond, power relation starts. That's what Foucault says. Okay. Therefore, resistance is written in the exercise of power. Your resistance is written, is embedded in power. At the moment you start to resist something, then power structure comes into existence. The most valuable lesson we have to learn here, not to respond to power structures. The point where we start to resist, then power comes into existence. In Discipline and Punish, Foucault examines the way the discipline as a form of self-regulation encouraged by institutions permeates modern societies. Okay? He analyzed a range of different institutions such as the hospital, the clinic, the prison, the university, and sees a number of disciplinary practices which they seem to have in common. Okay? In modern institutions, particularly hospital, clinic, prison, university, these have been used to discipline the society. Discipline the society. Foucault recalls that people were beaten, people were cut into pieces in 16th century, 17th century in Europe. That was so cruel. But in the modern sense, universities, schools, hospitals, you would think how hospitals would be used to discipline a society. I will come to that point. Even hospitals are being used to discipline us, normalize us, making